Let me ask you something. What would you do if tomorrow morning you walked into the office and your systems were dead? Every file encrypted, every email locked, every order gone. And on the screen, a single line: your files have been encrypted. Pay to recover them. This is the nightmare that hundreds of businesses wake up every single day to. And most of them thought they were safe. That's why ISO 27001 Control Annex A 8.7 exists. And this is what it requires. It simply states that protection against malware shall be implemented and supported by appropriate user awareness. Because in today's world, the question isn't if you'll be targeted, it's when and how often. Malware, short for malicious software, mal and software or malicious software brought together, comes in many disguises. Viruses, worms, trojans, spyware, and ransomware. And it's probably ransomware that you've heard most often, because ransomware really is where the cyber criminals are making all their money. But each one is designed to disrupt, damage, or destroy. Now, it's not just an IT problem. And I want you just to really think about this for a moment, because remember that the control talks about that malware protection shall be in place, but it needs to be supported by appropriate user awareness. So it's not an IT problem, it's a business survival problem. It's a business risk. And while we may have advanced tools and artificial intelligence and cloud defenses, the truth is, and it's an unpopular opinion, the weakest link in your cybersecurity chain are people. People like me, like you, we are fallible. This is not victim blaming. This is about an honest reflection of what we see all around us. You see, systems are binary. They're ones and zeros. They're either on, they're off. They either work or they fail. We all know that. But people are much more nuanced than that. People are fallible. We make mistakes. We're emotional. And we are distracted and we're overwhelmed. So it's not victim blaming to say that the weakest link in your cybersecurity is people. It's an honest reflection of what the world is like nowadays. So let's put that to bed and let's move forward. Because here's the good news. That weakest link can become your strongest line of defense, but only if you educate, empower, and prepare those people correctly. It only becomes victim blaming when we don't educate them and we simply say, well, it's your fault you did this thing, when they didn't know that that thing was a bad thing to do. So we need to think about that, or this topic, a lot deeper than simply saying, well, we can't blame people, they are not the weakest link. So enough of that. Let's bring this story to life. Let's bring this control to life. What do we need to think about? Well, all too often when it comes to malware protection, people think, well, malicious attackers, cyber attacks, they're only going to affect the larger organizations. Well, big red alert on this one. That's not true. Small organizations are just as likely to become victims of cybercrime as anyone else. Some might say they are more likely, because malware is sent out by cyber criminals to millions of people, individuals and businesses alike. And they don't care if you're large, small, or medium. Take, for example, that this small family-run business that we worked with. What did they make? Were they making some government tools or financial tools, and were they helping the stock markets? No, they were making jam. Jam, the kind of stuff that you put on your toast in the morning. They made artisan, specialist jams and marmalades and sauces. And they sold at markets, they sold to fairly large distributors, but they made beautiful jams. But one day they woke up and ransomware had hit their systems. Every recipe, every order, every client record was encrypted. They couldn't access anything. They spent weeks rebuilding from email attachments and old paperwork and documentation that they had all of their orders and their client records, and more importantly, their recipes. That quite literally the secret sauce that they had. Imagine what would happen if Coca-Cola's secret sauce, their secret formula, was either encrypted or stolen, and they couldn't access it any longer. Now, in this particular case, for this organization, this small company that made the jams, they didn't just lose data, they lost customers and confidence, not just from clients, but in themselves. Or how about USB sticks, those little devices, the thumb drives that we plug into our machines on an all too often, all too frequent basis. In one particular organization, a team member plugged a USB into their device. It hadn't been locked down. It hadn't any malware protection in there at all. And all they wanted to do was access some photos from a team event that they had participated in and they'd taken. Unfortunately, it was an infected thumb drive, and within minutes, the malware spread across the network. Now, it wasn't malice. Was it a mistake? I'll let you decide. But it was a moment of human innocence that cost thousands. Or how about the legitimate looking email that comes from a supplier, an invoice that looks real? Certainly, the covering email sounded plausible, it sounded right, but when they were implored, the reader was implored to read the email. They read the email and were asked to open the attachments. They double-clicked the attachments and they received an error. Nothing happened. Maybe it was a corrupted PDF file, right? Unfortunately, not. It was ransomware. It was an infected link. One click and the attacker was in. One email opened the door to an entire network. You see, malware doesn't care who you are, only that you're busy, that you're trusting, and that you're distracted, and that you have something worth stealing. Now, before anyone says, well, I don't have anything worth stealing, I would hasten just to ask you to pause and just say, well, in that case, go and delete every single email that you have. Go and delete all the data that's in your systems and see how long your business continues. That would be crazy. And you know that's crazy. And I know that's crazy. But you have something there worth stealing. And together we can improve security so that it doesn't fall into the wrong hands. You see, you must build a complete layered level of defense, not just antivirus software either. Malware protection under ISO 27001 expects you to combine technical safeguards, software monitoring and detection, process controls, policies, authorization, response, and human awareness, training, vigilance, accountability. Because as the ISO 27001 guidance makes clear, the use of malware detection and repair software alone is not adequate. So what does the standard actually expects of you? It expects you to build your defense in depth. You need to control what's allowed, implement application allow lists, for instance, using only approved software within your organization. Block unauthorized or suspicious applications before they even start. You need to block dangerous websites, so using web filtering and block lists to prevent access to known malicious sites, and scan web traffic for hidden malware. You need to reduce exploitable weaknesses, keeping systems patched using technical vulnerability management tools, for instance. Now, most attacks exploit known holes that have already been fixed, but just not by you. The 27001 standard requires you to validate and verify regularly. And this is about running automated checks for unauthorized files, strange system changes, or unapproved software. Detect the quiet intruders before they strike loudly. The standard requires essentially to have control what is coming in. Be cautious with all external files, downloads, USB drives, or software updates, and scan everything before it's being used. And yeah, whilst we're talking about scanning, scan relentlessly. Install and update malware detection tools to cover data received over networks, email and instant messaging attachments, web pages as they're being accessed. Scan at multiple layers at the gateway, the endpoint, and the servers as well. So there's so many more things that you can look to do. But the one piece of advice I would give you here is 27001 expects you to stay informed. Subscribe to malware intelligence feeds, trusted bulletins and vendor alerts, and verify sources before acting as well. And yeah, be realistic. Listen, some systems, especially industrial controls, can't run antivirus tools. In those cases, prepare for full imaging or rebuilds when infection occurs. So what will the auditor be looking for? Well, the auditor will expect to see that your malware protection is comprehensive, that you've thought about technical, human, and procedural controls, that it's tested and monitored, and that it is supported by training and leadership commitments. Now, that evidence might include anti-malware configuration and logs, patch management and vulnerability scans, access controls and endpoint protection policies, data loss prevention and encryptions in use, backup procedures and recovery testing. Backup procedures and recovery testing. Yes, I said that twice because backup procedures and recovery testing is absolutely key. Because if you are hit with malware, the first question anyone's going to ask is, where are your backups? So make sure you back up important information, critical information, and that you have tested those as well. You need to make sure you have incident response plans in place and that you have tested those as well. Remembering that incident response plans is about testing your people. So maybe a more accurate term here isn't testing people, but exercising them. And a good exercise, like all exercise, should make you sweat. So if you run an exercise and your team aren't sweating, then you aren't really exercising. So get on it and do that as well. So what do you need to do? Well, in short, talk to your IT team, find out what's in place currently, what's working and what isn't, and then build multi-layered defenses. Remember, just having antivirus isn't enough. You need to block lists, you need to combine allow lists, you need web filtering, you need monitoring, and then train people. Even a simple 10-minute refresher can prevent a six-figure breach. And when I say train people, I mean train your incident response teams as well, because they need to know what to do when bad things happen. So finally, I'm just going to say this to you. Malware is invisible until it's not. Data security isn't exciting until it's the only thing you can talk about. Just remember that it doesn't just attack your systems. Malware attacks your momentum. It doesn't just encrypt your files, it locks your future. But with the right controls, the right awareness, and the right preparation, you don't just protect your data, you protect your people, your reputation, and, dare I say it, your legacy. Because cybersecurity isn't just about stopping attacks, it's about staying unstoppable. I hope that's been useful. I'm Gary from Consultants Like Us, where we help organizations understand the nuance of information security. It's all about compliance without complexity for us. So I hope that's been helpful. If you have any thoughts or comments, please leave those on this video. Do drop me a line. I'd love to hear from you. Give this a like and give it a share as well. And don't forget to subscribe. Hit that little bell in the corner so that you are alerted to any new videos. And remember, the strongest firewall in the world won't save you if your people don't know how to spot the spark. So stay aware, stay protected, and stay one step ahead. So until next time, stay well, stay safe, and stay protected. Thank you. Bye bye.